The phone call that changed everything. King Yella built his name by telling the truth about the streets, but nothing in his career prepared him for the moment he had to admit that his own son was now trapped inside the same world he had spent years trying to escape. Not long ago, Yella went live and revealed that his son had been arrested on a robbery charge, with a bond set at an overwhelming $200,000. To secure his release, the family would reportedly need around $50,000. But instead of pretending he had the situation under control, Yella made a confession that stunned everyone watching. He said he did not even have $50 available, let alone the amount needed to bring his son home. That admission hit harder than any diss track. This was not a rapper protecting his image. This was a father watching his child's future collapse in real time. Yella openly said he felt as though he had failed his son, and the pain behind those words made the story impossible to ignore. His son had not always been viewed as someone headed towards serious trouble. He had reportedly been an honor roll student, a young man with structure, potential, and a future that once looked completely different. So how did that child end up sitting behind bars with a six-figure bond attached to his name? According to Yella, the answer is bigger than one arrest. His son grew up carrying the weight of O-Block, Chicago street politics, family rivalries, and a famous father's reputation. He was allegedly forced to defend himself because of conflicts he did not create. Even after the family moved away, the influence of that environment never fully disappeared. Then Yella made the accusation that pushed this story into another level. He claimed that Lil Durk's music had a powerful influence on his son and pulled him toward a life Yella desperately wanted him to avoid. That statement immediately reopened years of tension between Yella and Durk, turning a painful family crisis into a much larger debate about drill music, responsibility, and whether artists should be blamed for how young listeners interpret their lyrics. But one question remains: did the music truly change Yella's son, or was it only the soundtrack to a struggle that had already begun? Tell us where you are watching from. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next chapter. Comment 1 if you believe the environment had the greatest influence, or comment 2 if you believe personal choices mattered more. Born into a reputation, long before the arrest, the bond, and the painful live stream, King Yella's son was already carrying a burden he never chose. According to Yella's own past interviews, his son spent part of his childhood in O-Block, one of the most heavily discussed neighborhoods in Chicago drill culture. To outsiders, O-Block became a symbol through songs, interviews, documentaries, and viral clips. But for a child growing up there, it was not a symbol. It was home, and home came with rules. Yella claimed his son faced confrontations because of his father's reputation. The young man did not create King Yella's alliances, rivalries, public arguments, or street history, but he allegedly inherited the consequences of all of them. His relatives reportedly had connections to different sides of Chicago's long-running neighborhood conflicts, placing him in an uncomfortable position before he was old enough to understand the full history. That meant ordinary childhood moments could become tests. Walking outside, going to school, visiting friends, or simply being recognized could bring pressure. In that kind of environment, a famous last name does not always provide protection. Sometimes it paints a target. Yella understood that danger because he had lived inside it himself. He knew how quickly fear could become aggression, how easily survival instincts could replace patience, and how young people could begin measuring respect through confrontation. He publicly pushed back against claims that his son was deeply involved in gang activity, and repeatedly spoke about guiding young people away from street culture. For a while, that guidance appeared to be working. His son reportedly performed well in school and earned honor roll recognition. That detail matters, because it destroys the easy explanation that he was always destined for trouble. He had proof of another path. He had discipline, academic success, and at least some stability. But success inside the classroom did not erase what waited outside. Every day, he still carried his father's name. Every conflict reminded him that he was connected to a history he did not write. And every drill song, turning his neighborhood into mythology, made that history feel even larger. The tragedy was not that he never saw a different future. The tragedy was that he saw one, reached it, and still felt the old world pulling him back. The escape that did not last. King Yella eventually made a decision that appeared designed to break the cycle. He moved his family away from Chicago and established a life in Las Vegas, hoping physical distance could create the safety and stability that the South Side could not guarantee. On paper, the plan made sense. Remove the child from the neighborhood. Separate him from old conflicts. Give him new surroundings, different friendships, and room to build an identity that was not permanently attached to his father's past. But geography can change faster than identity. Moving to another city did not erase years of memories, pressure, fear, and loyalty. It did not erase the people his son knew, the reputation he carried, or the feeling that a part of him still belonged to Chicago. Most importantly, it could not erase the digital world. The music, live streams, neighborhood arguments, and viral clips followed everywhere. O'Block was no longer only a physical place. It had become an international brand. Young listeners across the world repeated its name without ever visiting Chicago. For someone who actually grew up there, that attention could create a dangerous emotional conflict. The place his father wanted him to escape was also the place the culture constantly celebrated. Yella appeared to believe the move would weaken the environment's influence. Instead, the scenery changed while the psychological connection remained. Then came an earlier legal incident in Las Vegas. Reports and circulating clips connected Yella's son, identified in parts of the online conversation as rapper Clyde, to an arrest involving a firearm-related allegation. That case appeared smaller than the later robbery charge, but it became an important warning sign. Trouble had followed the family west. For Yella, that moment may have confirmed a painful truth. A parent can change a child's address, but cannot instantly rewrite the child's sense of identity. The habits learned under pressure, the need to prove toughness, and the attraction to the image promoted through drill culture can survive any relocation. The Las Vegas incident did not receive the same attention as the later six-figure bond, but it suggested that the situation had been developing for months. The robbery allegation was not presented as an isolated fall from nowhere. It looked like the most serious point in a downward pattern. And then, according to accounts surrounding the story, Yella allowed or encouraged his son to return to Chicago. That decision would soon become the center of his guilt, sending him back into the fire. The move to Las Vegas had been meant to create distance from Chicago. Yet at some point, King Yella's son returned to the city his father had tried to leave behind. When the serious charge followed, Yella did not speak like a man who believed the outcome had nothing to do with him. He spoke like a father replaying one decision over and over again. He said he felt that he had failed his son. Those words carried more weight because the guilt appeared connected not only to the arrest, but also to sending the young man back into the environment that had shaped his earliest struggles. Yella had spent years talking about Chicago's dangers. He knew the neighborhood pressures, the old relationships, and the expectations attached to his name. Still, circumstances brought his son back. Then came the robbery allegation and the $200,000 bond. Details circulating online claimed that the case involved an elderly victim, although not every report had been independently established in court. What Yella himself made clear was that the charge was serious. His son remained locked up, and the amount required for release was far beyond what he could afford. That reality shattered the image many people associate with rappers. Social media creates the appearance of constant wealth: jewelry, cars, designer clothes, music videos, and large audiences. But followers do not always equal money, and recognition does not guarantee financial security. Yella admitted that while tens of thousands of dollars might be needed to secure his son's release, he could not even produce $50 at that moment. It was a devastating contrast. A recognizable rapper with years in the culture was unable to change his own son's immediate situation. His platform could spread the story, but it could not open the jail door. His reputation could attract thousands of viewers, but it could not satisfy the bond. That helplessness appeared to break him publicly. Instead of hiding, he went live. Instead of blaming everyone else, he admitted his own regret. Yet he also searched for the forces that had shaped his son's choices. And that search led him toward one of the most controversial names he could have mentioned: Lil Durk. By naming Durk's music as a major influence, Yella transformed the conversation. The story was no longer only about a father, a son, and an arrest. It became a debate over whether music reflects street reality or encourages young listeners to imitate it. And because of Yella and Durk's history, the accusation sounded deeply personal. While Lil Durk's name changed the story, King Yella did not simply blame rap music in general. He pointed directly toward Lil Durk's influence, claiming that Durk's music had taken hold of his son despite Yella's attempts to guide him in another direction. That statement immediately divided listeners. Some believed Yella was identifying a real cultural influence. Others argued that blaming an artist ignored personal responsibility and the deeper environment surrounding his son. But no matter which side people chose, the accusation could not be separated from Yella's long-standing tension with Durk. These were not two strangers debating hip-hop from a distance. Both emerged from Chicago's drill scene, but their public paths became connected through rivalries, neighborhood politics, and years of verbal conflict. Yella had openly criticized Durk before. Durk's music had reportedly included a reference interpreted as a shot toward Yella, prompting a public response and further hostility. So when Yella said Durk's music influenced his son, many people questioned whether he was speaking only as a worried father or also as an old rival. That ambiguity made the story more explosive. Yella's argument, however, was not that a song physically forced his son to commit an alleged offense. His deeper point appeared to be that the music gave emotional power to a lifestyle his son already understood. For a teenager unfamiliar with Chicago, drill songs might sound like dramatic storytelling. For someone raised around a block, family conflict, and street pressure, the lyrics could feel like personal instruction, validation, or prophecy. Durk's music connects with listeners because it often transforms grief, loyalty, danger, and survival into emotionally direct records. That authenticity is one reason he became one of the genre's largest stars. But the same authenticity can hit differently when the listener recognizes the people, streets, and situations being described. To Yella's son, the music may not have sounded like fantasy. It may have sounded like proof that the life around him was meaningful, respected, and powerful. That does not make Durk legally or morally responsible for another person's alleged actions. It does, however, reveal the contradiction at the center of drill music. The genre can document suffering, create opportunity, and provide voices to ignored communities. At the same time, it can turn dangerous experiences into identities that young listeners feel pressured to perform. Yella built his own career from that same contradiction. Now, he was watching his son become trapped inside it. The mirror inside the music. Drill music did not invent the conditions surrounding King Yella's son. The neighborhood pressures, family history, and street conflicts existed before any song reached streaming platform, but music can give those conditions a language. For young listeners, especially those living inside the reality being described, songs can become more than entertainment. They can become emotional mirrors. They reflect pain, anger, loyalty, humiliation, and the desperate need to appear fearless. That mirror can be powerful. A teenager who feels ignored may hear a drill artist command millions of views while describing the same environment he sees every day. Suddenly, the experiences adults call dangerous or destructive appear connected to fame, respect, and financial success. The artist survived the neighborhood and turned the story into a career. To a young person, imitation can begin to look like ambition. That appears to be the fear behind Yella's accusation. He had used street authenticity to build his own platform. His interviews and music gained attention because audiences believed he had truly lived what he described. Yet as a father, he wanted his son to understand that surviving the streets was not the same as needing to repeat them. The message became complicated. How could Yella tell his son to reject a world that had given his father recognition? How could he condemn the influence of drill music when drill music helped create his public identity? And how could his son separate the warning from the success? Those contradictions may have weakened every lesson Yella tried to teach. The young man reportedly saw his father speak openly about gang culture, past incarceration, violence, and survival. He also saw artists connected to the same neighborhoods become internationally famous. Even the pain became profitable content. From a child's perspective, the lesson may not have been, escape this life. It may have been, this life is how men from our neighborhood become somebody. That is why the honor roll detail remains so important. His son was not incapable of discipline. He had already demonstrated focus and academic potential. The change appears less like the revelation of a hidden destiny and more like the gradual replacement of one identity with another. A successful student became a young man trying to survive expectations attached to his name. The classroom offered a future that required patience. The streets offered immediate belonging. And the music made that belonging sound unforgettable. A father without the money to fix it. The most painful part of King Yella's live stream was not the accusation against Lil Durk. It was the moment he admitted that he could not financially rescue his son. In hip-hop culture, public image often depends on appearing powerful. Artists are expected to look wealthy, connected, and capable of handling any crisis. Yella abandoned that image completely. He told viewers he did not have the money. The bond was reportedly set at $200,000, with a substantial payment required for release. Yella said the amount was beyond him. He even contrasted the enormous figure with his inability to produce a tiny fraction of it. For many viewers, that confession changed the emotional center of the story. This was no longer simply rapper drama. It was a father discovering that fame and followers could not protect his family. More than 200,000 subscribers could watch him suffer. but none of those numbers automatically became money in his hands. His honesty also exposed the unstable economics behind internet celebrity. A person can be recognizable and still struggle. Music can generate attention without creating lasting security. Viral moments may increase visibility, while doing nothing to solve rent, legal fees, or bond payments. Yella's situation became a warning about the distance between looking successful and being financially secure. But his emotional helplessness may have been even greater than his financial helplessness. Money could potentially bring his son home temporarily, but it could not reverse the decisions that led to the charge. It could not erase childhood trauma, neighborhood pressure, or the influence Yella believed had pulled his son away. Even if the bond were paid, the underlying problems would still remain. That may be why Yella repeatedly returned to the idea that he had failed. He was not only saying, "I cannot afford this," he was also saying, "I could not stop this." For a father who survived his own dangerous past, the deepest dream may have been to ensure that his children would not have to survive the same things. Watching his son enter the legal system made that dream feel broken. Still, his willingness to speak publicly suggested that he had not abandoned the relationship. Shame often makes families disappear from public view. Yella did the opposite. He exposed his lowest moment, perhaps hoping that honesty could become the first step toward changing whatever happened next. When family pain becomes public entertainment, King Yella has spent much of his career speaking without a filter. That openness helped him gain attention, but it also turned his family's pain into an unfolding public series. Viewers had already seen clips of him discussing his son's childhood, neighborhood conflicts, fatherhood, rumors, and earlier legal trouble. By the time the robbery charge surfaced, the audience did not feel as though it was meeting the family for the first time. They had watched fragments of the story for years. That familiarity created sympathy, but it also created spectacle. Some people watched because they cared about a father in crisis. Others watched because rapper family drama generated clicks. The same live stream could become a moment of genuine vulnerability and a piece of viral entertainment within minutes. Yella appeared to understand that risk and went public anyway. His decision matched the raw style that had defined his career. In the past, he openly discussed gang life, incarceration, street conflict, and surviving a shooting during a music video production. He rarely presented himself through polished statements. His identity depended on saying what other people might hide. But speaking about his son carried a different cost. Every detail invited judgment. Some viewers criticized the young man. Some blamed Yella's parenting. Others blamed Chicago, drill music, Lil Durk, or the legal system. The family's worst moment became a public argument in which strangers chose sides. That pressure could easily damage a father-son relationship. The son might view Yella's honesty as support, or he might experience it as humiliation. Yella might believe he is warning other parents, while his son might feel that his mistakes have become content. There is no simple answer. What is clear is that the story reached people because it contained something larger than celebrity drama. Many families recognize the fear of watching a promising child change. Many parents know the frustration of offering advice that cannot compete with friends, culture, anger, and the desire to belong. Yella's fame only placed a spotlight on a struggle that often happens privately. The honor roll student and the jailed young man were not two different people. They were two stages of the same life. Between them stood years of pressure, identity conflict, music, family history, and choices whose consequences became increasingly serious. The internet saw the latest headline. Yella saw every moment that came before it. The cycle King Yella could not break. By the time King Yella's son faced a serious robbery allegation and a six-figure bond, every part of the story had connected. The O'Block upbringing created pressure. The family name created conflict. The move to Las Vegas created distance, but not separation. The earlier arrest became a warning. The return to Chicago reopened old influences. The music reflected a lifestyle that already felt familiar. And the latest charge forced Yella to confront the possibility that the cycle he escaped had reached the next generation. That is what makes this story more painful than a normal celebrity controversy. Yella had spent years describing the dangers of the streets. He knew where certain choices could lead because he had survived many of those consequences himself. Yet experience did not automatically give him the power to save his son. Parents often believe that telling children the truth about past mistakes will prevent repetition. Sometimes it does. But children do not inherit only their parents' lessons. They also inherit their environments, reputations, unresolved conflicts, and examples. Yella told his son to avoid the street life, but his career proved that street credibility could create attention. He moved the family away from Chicago, but the culture made Chicago impossible to escape. He challenged rumors about his son. But the famous Yella name continued shaping how people treated the young man. By blaming Lil Durk's music, Yella identified one influence, but the full picture was far more complicated. No song acted alone. Music interacted with real experiences, old wounds, social pressure, personal choices, and the human need to belong somewhere. The courts will determine the legal truth behind the robbery allegation. Until then, the charge remains an allegation, and online discussion cannot replace evidence or due process. But the emotional truth is already visible. A father is grieving the distance between the child he remembers, and the young man now facing serious consequences. A son who once earned academic recognition is confronting a future shaped by the justice system. And a family that tried to escape one environment is discovering that physical distance may not be enough to break a cycle built across generations. There is still no clean ending. The bond remains a barrier. The legal case remains unresolved. Yella's relationship with his son will have to survive public judgment, financial pressure, and private regret. But the most important question is no longer who deserves the blame. It is whether this moment becomes the final collapse of a young man's future, or the painful wake-up call that finally changes its direction. The lesson behind the headlines. The biggest lesson in King Yella's story is that breaking a cycle takes more than moving to a new city, giving warnings, or hoping a child will learn from a parent's mistakes. Real change requires consistency, emotional support, stable opportunities, and people willing to intervene before one bad decision becomes a permanent pattern. Yella's son reportedly had academic potential. That means the ability to choose a different path was once visible, but potential can disappear when pressure becomes stronger than guidance. A young person surrounded by conflict, identity struggles, public expectations, and music that reflects his own environment may begin to believe that danger is not something to escape, but something he must prove he can survive. That is why blaming only one artist, one neighborhood, or one parent does not solve anything. Music can influence emotions, but it does not act alone. Environment matters, family history matters, personal responsibility matters. Friends, education, money, trauma, and access to positive role models all matter too. The strategic lesson for parents is to act early. Do not wait for an arrest, a public breakdown, or a six-figure bond before taking warning signs seriously. Listen without humiliating. Set boundaries without abandoning. Create distance from harmful influences, but also replace them with purpose. A young person needs more than something to run away from. He needs something meaningful to run toward. The lesson for artists is equally important. Music is art, testimony, and sometimes survival. But artists also carry influence, especially when young listeners see their lyrics as instructions instead of reflection. That does not mean censoring every painful story. It means remembering that authenticity can include healing, accountability, growth, and peace, not only conflict. For King Yella and his son, the story is still unfinished. A legal case does not have to become the final definition of a life. Accountability is necessary, but so are rehabilitation, family support, education, and the chance to rebuild. The most powerful victory would not be winning an argument about who caused the downfall. It would be watching a father and son use this painful moment to stop the cycle before it reaches another generation. Subscribe to the channel, share this video, and press like if you believe young people deserve guidance before judgment. Comment 1 if you believe family support can still change this story. Or comment 2 if you believe the damage has already gone too far.